Okay, questions? Sure, go ahead.
We have, yeah. Yeah, I heard it. Huh? We're currently editing the final draft report. I think Ipsos has done a pretty good job in doing the analysis, presenting the analysis and the findings, and we will circulate a draft in January for consultation. It will then undergo endless World Bank quality assurance procedures before a final report will be published. But there should be the data available and the draft report available in January at the latest. I think we're at the language editing stage. And I mean, we're discussing, I think we haven't made a decision yet on whether to make the data available too. I mean, in a format I think would be interesting to some stakeholders to have the actual data and if nothing else to students of whatever survey and judiciary around.
Early in the presentation, you talked about the court system, and then about halfway through, you started talking about the judicial system. How did you define the judicial system? Does that include police and prosecutors and judges and court staff and lawyers, or is it only one part?
Actually, we talked about the court system. We didn't include police and other, because when you look at the questionnaire, you know, and we were always talking about particular case of the when it comes to the people with experience, and then the whole context. You're right that sometimes we change the name, you know, the concept, how to say, but in a whole context, you know, I don't think that people thought much about police or anything else judiciary, you know, judges, prosecutors, and what's related to the court, you know, directly. But maybe you're right, maybe, because in Serbian, you know, when you say sudski, it's actually focused on really courthouse and what's happened in there. You know, the people would not, when you say it in Serbian, think about police when you say sudski and sud, you know. Okay?
I do have one other question. This is a baseline survey. Has there been any discussion at what point there might be a follow-up to the baseline?
I'll be brief, not yet. Well, the issue is 3 years, 5 years, you know, it remains to be, to be the decision of maybe some forthcoming ministry or minister. Well, I guess we managed to successfully confuse everyone in the room with the findings, but nevertheless, everything will be available to you hopefully by the end of January, so we could always go back, and in the meantime, if there are any questions that you wouldn't want to pose right now, feel free to email to the bank, and they'll make sure to coordinate. I would, if there are no other questions, I would like to, please.
Well, I don't have exactly a question, but maybe a comment about the survey. I think that the survey is, as I see it, a very good tool for following up the improvement that we all want to see in future in the system. And this is the reason why we are today here, and the reason why we are supporting the ministry is exactly to overcome this situation. So it's good to know how is it, or how was it at the moment of the study, and how is it improving, not only to be happy with, which is a reason in itself, but also to monitor where shall we put more effort in order to address situations that may be progressing less faster or less faster than what we envisage. I believe also that for the future negotiations of accession, it may be a tool also that may be useful during this process. I wanted to use also the opportunity to highlight the importance of having these partners forum meetings, which the EU delegation will be participating more and more actively. I think it's an excellent model of dialogue between the ministry and the donors. It is for us also one important pillar for what we would like to be developed in future, and we already spoke about that, and we are we agree about that, and this is to move towards a more systematic approach that we call the sectoral-wide approach. It's this step was already agreed also with DACU. DACU selected the judiciary as being the first sector in which this approach should be developed, and I think it's very good that the choice is the judiciary, because this is one of the most challenging sectors for accession, and developing a more demanding approach, I believe it's a way of bringing results faster. This approach will demand, or will require having exactly this dialogue with the ministry around the priorities that are defined by the ministry, will require also a better coordination amongst donors, and I think we are also doing good steps in this direction. It will require also to focus more on results when we are supporting the ministry, and I believe that this survey helps on this regard, as it will help also to design projects in future where our starting point are what exactly do we want to achieve, very specifically, very concretely, in order that we can then measure our progress when we spend our money on the support in this area. And regarding the European Union support, we would like to see it increasing. We have, for us, this is a priority sector, so we would like, together with the ministry and together with other donors, to contribute to increase the absorption capacity of the ministry of our support. The needs are there. They are huge, as we can see, as we knew, but as we could see also in this survey. There is a lot to do, and we are more than eager to increase our support. But of course, this requires that we design projects that will really bring a difference, that will really help to transform this landscape. On this regard, we started with the US aid to design a project to improve the efficiency of the courts, as we already discussed, and we agreed that it would be a good idea for the future. So we had already the first meetings in order to think on how to come with a concrete proposal to the ministry. And I would maybe suggest that in future we organize meetings around specific subjects. We had a meeting recently about the IT. I think it was good that we discussed this subject because it's a huge concern that you have to improve this area. It's for us a pleasure to help in these areas we have been done in the past, but we feel that we need to coordinate with you, but also with other donors involved in this specific area in order that we look for the maximum of possible synergies with the funds that we all together have available. And I'm speaking about the IT just as an example. There are other areas where I think that also a discussion on specific issues can be very useful. It was mentioned before, the revision of the strategy. This is for us also something that is very important to be involved in order to help us to develop our ideas on how to further help you on the points that you identify as priorities. And in other areas, I don't think it is now necessary to specify. So I would leave this just as a suggestion, a recommendation that in future, under your lead, because I think it's very important that we have the ministry in the leading position for our coordination, so that we organize specific meetings for specific subjects, not as a routine and not just to say that we are coordinating, but around really specific needs that you feel and when you feel that it's better to do so. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Questions, comments? Please.
As we move a little beyond the study itself to some of the broader issues you raised at the beginning, could I ask you to elaborate a little bit? You talked about the ministry working on a new strategy in the near future. Could you talk a little bit more about what you're doing there?
Absolutely. The idea is that as the current ongoing strategy is phasing out in 2011, throughout 2011 we'll make sure to develop a new strategic framework, set up a number of new goals which we want to achieve in the period of 2011-2015.